All living things on Earth are made up of cells, so what are the chances that even a first cell could have accidentally formed? About 150 years ago, when Charles Darwin was alive, the cell was considered to be something like a simple, unsophisticated microscopic blob of jello. As a result of recent discoveries, however, we now know just how amazingly complex these extraordinarily small cells are. The adult human body contains 100 trillion cells of various sizes. 10,000 average-size human cells could fit on the head of a pin, and every single cell contains information equivalent to about 4,000 books. The information for all the cells in one adult in book form would completely fill the Grand Canyon more than 75 times. The cell is similar to a supercomputer but microscopic in size. The cell could also be viewed as an amazingly miniature city, with an elaborate network of connected assembly lines with numerous molecular protein machines, carrying out different tasks which make the cell work. Cells are mostly made up of proteins. A typical cell uses thousands of different kinds of proteins. To get even the simplest cell would take at least 600 different protein molecules. Proteins are made of amino acids. A single functioning protein is typically made from a chain of between 50 to 1,000 amino acids. Some proteins require a chain of thousands of properly sequenced amino acids. Every time a new amino acid is joined to a chain, it must form a chemical bond called a peptide bond in order to successfully join with the other amino acids in the chain. Every amino acid in the long chain also has to be a specific amino acid. There are 20 different types that can be selected, and they need to be placed in the correct order in the chain in order to form a protein. The amino acids are placed in the exact right order because of a molecule in the cell called DNA. DNA could be described as a master blueprint, information code, or special language that uses a 4-letter chemical alphabet. The chemical letters or code in DNA are the set of instructions for the cell's machines on how to correctly assemble amino acids in chains to build proteins. If the DNA is not present from the very beginning, the amino acids will not be correctly selected and placed in the proper order. As a result, a protein will never form and the cell will not survive. DNA can't function without at least 75 pre-existing proteins, but proteins are produced only by DNA. Since each needs the other, they must have come into existence at the exact same time by God. This fact eliminates evolution. A DNA fiber is only about 2/millionths of a millimeter thick. While DNA is not thick and is incredibly small, it is extremely long when uncoiled. In fact, if the DNA in just one of your cells were uncoiled, connected, and stretched out, it would be over 7 feet long. It would be so thin that its details could not be seen even under an electron microscope. If all the DNA in your body were placed end to end, it would stretch from here to the moon more than 500,000 times. If you took a set of DNA from every person who ever lived and placed it in a pile, it would weigh less than an aspirin. Yet the information storage density of DNA is many times greater than the most advanced silicon computer chip. Bill Gates described DNA saying, quote, "DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created." But having the complex DNA instruction program is not enough by itself. Other things in the cell must be able to understand and use DNA's information program. In other words, the highly complex DNA program is actually worthless unless you also have a system inside the cell that can understand the DNA language. To understand this better, imagine that DNA is a complex CD or DVD disc. But if you don't also have a machine or system that can read, understand, and utilize the information on the disc is worthless. Therefore, other things in the cell need to understand and be able to use the DNA information program in order to build things correctly. If not, the cell will die. DNA is able to make an identical copy of itself. God also programmed DNA to detect and correct errors. There are special proofreading protein machines that constantly travel up and down the DNA molecule looking for any errors requiring correction. If any problems are detected, repairs are made immediately. This whole process is incredibly complex. The information contained in DNA proves that life doesn't just consist of matter and energy. It also contains information. Information can only come from an intelligent source that put the information there. Another function of DNA is that it is the program that God uses to build what you look like, your hair color, your height, etc. As mentioned earlier, each adult human body has about 100 trillion cells. But at your conception, you were only one cell. Incredibly, you began your existence no larger than the head of a pin. Yet all the complex information that physically defined you and every organ in your body was there, contained in that one cell. Within 1 month of your conception, your eyes, ears, and lungs developed. Billions of new cells formed, and your size increased by over 10,000 times. Shortly after the first month, the speed at which you were rapidly growing slowed down dramatically. If it didn't slow down and your speed of growth stayed the same, you would have weighed 3,000 pounds at birth. After 2 months, you were only 3 to 4 centimeters long, still small enough to fit inside a walnut shell. There is no evolutionary explanation for the incredible complexity involved in conception and birth, or even a reason for reproduction itself. Evolutionists believe the amazingly complex, radically different yet complementary reproductive systems for all the different kinds of life happen to develop by chance, completely and independently at the same time. Just a slight incompatibility in one of the two systems would make both reproductive systems useless, and life would become extinct. These facts refute and eliminate Darwinian evolution, which is, by definition, a blind, undirected process without either plan or purpose.